Morning, big boy.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Carter.
Okay. Hey there, buddy.
Good morning, Mr. Robinson.
Hey. I've been having to listen to I've been talking to David. He's been harassing me this morning.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those little shit disturbers.
Man, I was having trouble getting my laptop to work here,
Okay.
but it's working, isn't it? You can hear me.
I can
Hey,
hear
Carmen, I went in there and I saved Gary from himself. I helped him with his computer.
That's a lie. He didn't do nothing except try to screw me up.
I was going to say, if you needed Mr. Carter to help you with your computer, you were really going to be lost.
You ain't lying, man. If you got me, boy. Talking about the blind leading the blind.
Absolutely.
You know you're in deep trouble.
Sounds like a 49ers fan to me.
Doesn't it always?
I think he's going to become a Dallas Cowboy fan. I'm pretty sure.
No, I can go ahead and tell you right now, I have a better chance of becoming pregnant personally than becoming a Dallas Cowboy.
Thanks up. Good morning, Mr. Granger. Mr. Maloney.
Morning.
How you doing, big boy? Everybody's getting on quick as can. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
How are we?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely unbelievable. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Who else we got on here? Miss Sarah, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Unbelievable. Thanks for asking. Mr. Scott's on.
Morning, Carmen.
Heard you guys had a whole lot of fun yesterday.
I had a whole lot of fun.
Well, good for you, brother. Good for you.
Good conversation.
You learned something?
Yes, sir.
That tells me you were listening. It's a good start.
I do my best. I'm a really good listener.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good morning.
Miss April.
Good morning. Hi, Gary.
Hello.
Are you so nervous about our questions?
I don't know. We'll see when he asks me.
I would be. We're pretty crazy around here.
Yeah, they're good ones. They're good ones.
Yeah.
I could tell your question without even seeing your name by them.
Now that is funny.
Just that one, right? And you have to answer it.
I will answer it.
All right, good.
His name is Garry Robinson.
Hello.
I kept saying,
Good morning, Katrina. Mr. Reeves.
Hey there. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Have you killed anybody yet, or are you still holding your patience?
Have I did? Oh, no, not close, but not quite yet.
Hey, listen, I don't think we have to worry about suicides. I think we have to worry about murders over the next couple of weeks.
Pretty much.
Absolutely. Miss Kilborn. And how are you
Good
this morning?
morning.
Good morning.
I am
Finally
lovely.
waking up? Get the sleepiness out of our eyes?
No, my eyes are still half shut, but I'm ready to learn.
Are you really?
I
always
am
a good
so
start.
ready to
Oh,
learn.
well, you got up too early because I'm talking today, so maybe you should go back to sleep. You want?
Oh, Gary, I'm ready for you.
You are? Okay. All right.
Notes are ready.
Lifesavers seem to sleep in a little bit more than most other teams, Gary, so we're going to give them another 45 seconds.
That's okay.
I could say 11 o'clock all I want, but it's by 11:02 is usually when the people stop drifting in. So,
Well, it's not that I have a whole lot to do today.
we'll see if we can keep you busy.
I do have to talk to David Carter, though, today for a few hours.
Hey, Carmen.
Yes, sir.
It's okay. It's okay about the a few minutes late and whatever, because the Navy's typically only up about lunchtime anyway. So.
In the Navy.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
If I knew I had a quartet of people singing with me, I would have kept on going, but we'd have to get into the YMCA and all that type of stuff, and then people would have to figure out why I know that song, and everything would get confusing. Okay, we're going to get this baby started, so we're going to start off by muting everybody. So Everybody's on mute, and then I will unmute Mr. Robinson. So good morning, boys and girls. We have a special treat on this morning's interview with Mr. Garry Robinson, the Vice President of International Sales, as well as the Executive Sales Director and leader of our nemesis, Team Eagle. So we'll try not to be too hard on you today, Gary.
Okay, well,
But you know what we've
I
been
got
doing
big
is
shoulders.
pardon?
I got big shoulders. I can take it.
Listen, I've seen you carry some weights. I have no doubt whatsoever. What we've been doing over the last couple of weeks is we've been interviewing people and getting everybody get a chance to see what makes the top people tick and, you know, get a little bit of their history and get a little bit of knowledge. So when we get to these conventions, people will be a lot more comfortable talking to each other and, you know, really learning the things we want to learn. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time this morning to get on our call. So we're going to get right to it. Are you ready, Gary?
I'm ready, sir.
Okay, so we have some good questions for you today from a lot of people. So we're going to start off with an easy one. You're married to Lori for how many years now?
In June 10th of this year will be 43 years.
43 years. Wow, that's awesome. And how did you meet?
Oh, that's a story that it's pretty interesting, actually. I was driving in my car from Dallas, Texas to Amarillo, Texas to do a meeting. And then from there, I was going to go to Colorado Springs to do a meeting. And I'm driving down the highway. And back in those days, now some of you probably don't know what I'm talking about, we had CB radio in our car. And her girlfriend were going on vacation. And I could hear them talking. They were trying to get directions on how to get to Colorado Springs, where I was going in a few days. So I got to talking to her and we visited a little bit. I found out she liked horses. And I had to get some gas, so they pulled over. So we met right then. And then we kept talking because we had about 3 more hours to go to hit Amarillo, because you had to go to Amarillo, then up to Colorado Springs. And I invited her to my aunt's ranch, and she has about 40 horses. So I called my aunt, stopped at the station, called my aunt and asked her if it'd be okay if we went to her place. And she said, absolutely. So we went there, we went for a ride a little bit. Then she suggested, why don't you go to Paladura Canyon? So we did, but basically that's how we met, on a CB radio. And she went on her way and I went on my way, and I took her number and she took my number, and we started talking, and about a week later, she's in Wyoming still on, and I'm living in Dallas, and she calls me and I'm at home and answers the phone. She says, what are you doing this weekend? I said, well, nothing really. She said, well, why don't you come to Wyoming? So I drove all the way to Wyoming nonstop from Dallas, Texas to meet her. That's how we got together. Pardon me?
How long a drive is that?
Oh, about 15 hours, something like that. It's a long drive.
Did you do it straight? Real fast?
Didn't stop.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. So how many children and grandchildren do you have now?
I have 9 grandkids and 1 on the way. And I have 6 kids, 4 boys, 2 girls. And all of my kids have worked for me at one time or another. And when I was a dealer growing up, they had to come into the office on Saturday and work all day. I taught each one of them the marketing department. My son used to work in the service department. All of them had to do all the jobs in the office because, of course, you know, I always hoped that they'd get into direct sales, because I knew the lifestyle was awesome. The money was phenomenal. The opportunity was unlimited. So now not all of them got into the business, but all of them are in sales. All of them are in the sales business. I do have one son in OmniShield. He started last year after the convention. My daughter works in the business helping him. Her and Matt were really good in the marketing department. I remember I'd always put them in a contest to see who could beat who on Saturdays when they worked together. And my daughter holds a record. She booked 14 demos that day, and he booked 13. So she holds the record.
Fantastic. That's really, really great. So how have you been keeping busy during this time?
Well, I've been on a lot of Zoom calls, made a lot of phone calls to dealers, and I actually some of the dealers have asked me to talk to their salespeople. I've been talking to salespeople. I've been walking. Probably should walk more than I have been. And I've been reading, watching movies. I've kind of got hooked on some things. Homeland, which is David's fault. He gave me this. Why don't you watch Homeland? So I didn't have Showtime on my cable, so I spent the money and got that, and I've been binging on that every now and then. But other than that, just FaceTiming my grandkids. I've got to really spend some time with them on FaceTime. And my grandson picks up his mother. He's 4 years old, and he knows how to call me by himself. He gets the phone and calls me, and then he puts me on FaceTime. And if I don't answer, he keeps calling. And then when I finally do answer, he says, "Why didn't you answer me, Popo?"
I love it. Perseverance.
Perseverance, right.
What year did you start in direct sales?
1957. I was just turning 16.
Wow. That's a good year. Good year. And what was your first month in direct sales like?
It was kind of rocky. My dad was the dealer, or the dealer in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the first week I went through the training during the day, just me, one-on-one with the sales manager, because that particular week, my dad didn't hire anybody, wasn't hiring that week. So I got one-on-one training with Mr. Boucher. I'll never forget him. And he gave me the training. And then I went out on my call on Saturday. And I was part-time, by the way, because I was going to college, San Jose State. And I was just doing that part-time. So my first demo was on a Saturday. And back then you'd go out by yourself. And I remember it was a 10:30 call. And I got a sale. So I was kind of hooked. But it was kind of funny because the guy said, "Well, we want to think about it." Well, being a rookie, I said, "Okay. I know there's a bowling alley right over here. I'll go bowl and I'll come back in an hour or so." He looked at me funny and said, "Okay." Come back and they said, "Yep, we're going to get it." So what did I learn from that? When they tell you that, they're going to buy, which is not what you should learn. So anyway, that's how I got started in June of 1957.
Wow, that's awesome. And 16 years of age. So
Yeah.
Did you know when you first started that this was going to be a lifelong career, or that just a way of making some extra money?
Actually, the reason I got into the business is because I was talking to Mom and Dad about, man, I got to get a car because I'm about to turn 16. I want to get my own car. And Dad said, "Well, you need to get a job." And I'd been working at this donut place that I'd have to get up at 3:30 in the morning and go work there on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. And my dad said, "Well, let's figure out how much you want to spend on a car." And I said, "I don't know." So he took me shopping for a car, and it was like $600, the one I wanted. And so he coerced me into, if you come and work and put on 30 demos in 45 days, I'll give you half of the money. Okay, he said, "I'll give you half the money." So I thought, wow, that's cool. I'll never make that money. I'll never make enough in working at the donut shop. It'd take me for next summer to get the car. So anyway, that's how I got started. I wanted to buy a car. That was my goal, and I did not want to be in sales. Everybody in my family, my aunts, uncles, nephews, cousins, everybody was in Rainbow at that time, and I did not want to. I had a goal of being an attorney. That's what I wanted to be. And here I am, 60 years later.
You still getting ready to be an attorney, or?
Well, sometimes I feel like one. I have to argue a case.
No doubt whatsoever. So how long were you a sales rep for?
Because I was part-time going to school, it was almost 4 years. Well, when you consider my high school,
Yeah.
I still had a few years there, but I wouldn't really consider working that much because I was played football, and the only time I could work would be on Saturdays and Sundays as far as demoing and so forth, because I had practice after school every day.
And then you became a distributor.
I became a distributor, yeah.
And where did you open your first office?
1966 was the first time I opened up an office.
And where was that?
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas.
Actually, that was my second office. First office was in Chickasha, Oklahoma.
Can you say that again, please?
Chickasha, Oklahoma.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard that name.
It was a little bitty town, and I did all right there. And then I got the opportunity one night. I was at my dad's house, and the president of the company asked me to move to Dallas. And he was somebody that I respected, somebody that I knew since I was in the first grade. And whatever he said, I would do. So I said, yes, sir. I didn't talk to my wife. I just said, yes, sir. And I was in Dallas, Texas. I sold my business. When I say sold my business, I sold my furniture and my office and everything that I had going on there, and to somebody else that took over, my sales manager, and headed to Dallas, Texas. My wife was pregnant with our first baby. I didn't really have a lot of money, about $3,000. I lived in a $19 a night hotel.
Living the high life.
Yep, living the high life.
Well, we all go through it. So what keeps you going when things aren't going right?
Well, I think that happens to all of us in life. I mean, I don't care how much money you have or how much success you have, there's always going to be darkness in our life. My dad used to tell me, son, you're either in a problem or you're headed for one. So enjoy the in-between. And it was, I don't know, what keeps me going is my dream, my purpose. I have to keep looking forward. I have to keep looking to once I get through this. And one of the things that I learned as a dealer, as a salesperson, when things are bad, that's when I need to put on a demo. That's when I need to go to work and put on a demo. Because no matter how negative you may be with the situation, when you get in front of somebody and you believe in your product, you get excited because those people get you excited. The way they react to your presentation, that's the best way I can explain that helps me. When I'm down a little bit in my position that I'm in today, it's the people that get me re-excited. I want to get around people. I don't want to hide. I want to jump out and do something that I don't feel like doing. Always doing something that you don't want to do will always move you forward.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Jason would like to know, if you can give a brand new safety advisor one key to this business, what would it be?
Work habits and understand. Well, let me explain it this way. I would want to make sure that safety advisor understands his responsibility to take advantage of the opportunity. And what I mean by that is he has to understand that things don't happen everybody else isn't going to do your work for you. You got to do it yourself. And that is, you got to understand when you go into someone's home, you got to get leads. You got to ask for the order. You got to put on a fantastic demonstration, and you got to recruit people. There's going to be people to help you along in your career, but you got to learn that presentation and do a good job and understand your responsibility, what you have to do to be successful, and don't rely on everybody else.
That's awesome. Very, very good advice. And then Jason would also like to know, if you can give a brand new dealer one key, what would it be?
Well, that's a good question. And that's usually what I'm going to tell them they don't like. What I'm going to say, you probably won't like it. What I see happening with dealers that are talented, and if they've gone through the system, and what I mean by the system, if they've gone through the system as a successful salesperson, a safety advisor, and then they've managed a little group, I don't care what you call them, master distributor, sales manager, if they've managed a group of people, they should have the skills to be a dealer. Most dealers will become what I call complacent when they get to be a dealer. Oh man, I've arrived. Well, you've just started. You have not arrived. I've always taught every dealer that I've ever promoted, you sell 8 protections, 8, whatever it is you're selling every month until you hit 50 sales. You got to sell 8. Most dealers get in trouble financially, not because they don't know what to do, not because they don't understand their opportunity. They just get lazy and their work habits are bad. But if you're living halfway correct, 8 personal sales will take care of everything. Why do salespeople get out of the business? They don't make enough money, not because the business is bad. They just don't work hard enough. They don't learn. They don't do the things that they should. And that's what happens to dealers. They really think they've arrived. You haven't. Remember that you're just starting. You're starting on a new journey that can lead you to financial security, unbelievable opportunity. And I think sometimes we forget that opportunity goes hand in hand with work.
Absolutely. Great advice. Sue would like to know, what percentage of Filipino are you?
I'm about 80%. I understand the Filipinos very well. I was stationed there in the Navy and became very good friends with families from the Philippines, in the Philippines. They were nice to me. I met a Filipino man on a bench one morning and waiting for a bus to go back to the naval base. And we got to talking, and he invited me to his home. First, he invited me to go to church with him, and then invited me home. So I got to know the Filipino people. And one of the things that I've learned about them are, one, they're very hard workers. They're dedicated to their family. They're very family oriented. They care about their country. They love the Philippines. Most of your Filipinos that live in the U.S. send money back home every month. And they still continue to help communities in the Philippines. So I've always been a fan of the Filipino people because of their attitudes towards opportunity. They have a great admiration for America. I think they see the opportunity and they take advantage of it. So I'd say I'm a lot Filipino. I love them.
Okay.
I don't like, what I will say this, I really don't care for their food, but I love the people. And I kept going to dinner at this guy's house in the Philippines because he had a beautiful daughter and I hated the food, but she was worth it.
Okay. Sue would like to know, what do you find easiest for you in direct sales?
Easiest? I think selling the product.
Okay. And what do you find the hardest in direct sales?
Your mental attitude towards things, as a safety advisor anyway.
Okay. Now you've obviously have quite a bit of experience. Compared to everything else you've done, what makes OmniShield different?
Well, honestly, I've only had 4 different companies that I've ever worked for. And every one of those companies I felt was, except for one, the best product out there. And that one that I didn't think it was, I didn't stay there very long. I don't know exactly. What I like about this is that we really have an outstanding product that's very well needed. All the other companies that I've been with Rainbow, Salad Master, to me, they are not a necessity. They're a luxury because of the pricing. Ours is a necessity. And that's one of the things I like about it. And another thing I like about it, when I joined the company, I felt it was a small company, which it is compared to the other companies that I've worked for. And I saw a tremendous opportunity. And really, when you're going to build a business, a company, that's one of the things you have to have. You have to have a good product. You have to have people. and you have to have an opportunity program, and you have to have a marketing program. Those are the things you need to really move your business to a next level. And I think that this company has all those things. But I think what it has most of all, Carmen, is it has an opportunity that's unbelievable because it's small. So if I was young again, if I was just starting my career, I would be so excited about the opportunity that this company can provide for people. It's unbelievable. When I see these new young kids that just get promoted out there, I can't help but think, I wish I was him, because I'd like to run this journey one more time, It really, because it's such a great product and it's such a great opportunity. And you can't if you don't have a good opportunity program, no matter how good your product is, it's not going to go. If you don't have good people in leadership, it's not going to go. You got to have a marketing program. Your product can be outstanding, but if you don't have those things, it's not going to go anywhere.
100%. Derek would like to know, is there any particular music that gets you pumped up when you're on the road or in your offices?
I'm a country westerns lover. I love country western. I like some of the Michael Jackson music. I like Elton John's music. I like the Beatles. Any kind of music usually will kind of pump me up. I'm not a rock person. I never got into that. So country western music, there's a lot of good. The reason I like country western music is because it usually has a story with it that's good.
Okay. What's the best live concert you've ever been to?
Probably I've been to Frank Sinatra was an awesome one, because I've always loved Frank Sinatra. Elton John's was outstanding. Probably one of the best, I'd probably say, of those was Neil Diamond. I love that one. It was very inspiring because of the way, the music that he chose to do that night. It was really good. That was many years ago, though.
Fantastic. Brett would like to know, what's the most amount of sales you've ever heard of or seen in a single office?
In a single office?
Yeah.
I saw that question. I was trying to think. I know that a dealer sold 5,000 once, but I'm not sure how many came out of one office. But I know in my office record was 555.
Wow, that's
555 rainbows.
Very, very impressive numbers. When you first came on board, like most of us, you were probably, I was going to probably say, kicking the tires. What made you decide to go all in?
David Carter.
Are you giving him credit or blame?
No, David Carter came to my house, and I'd met with him at the home office. I had met the Joneses, Brent, and Chris, and David. But David came to my house. I said, before I felt I wanted to do it, but I said, the biggest critic I know is my wife. She will not buy anything from a salesperson. And David came over, showed us the product. My wife reached over and grabbed my hand, and she said, we got to get this for everybody in our family. We got grandkids that are sleeping with the wrong alarms. So I walked David to the door, and he told me, he said, I want you to join the company because I think I can learn from you. And I said, well, I think I can learn from you. This is great. This will be a great marriage. So I would say it was probably David that got me excited, because he got my wife excited about the product. Yep, that's why because my wife was 100% sold on it. And I figured, man, if David can sell her, we can sell anybody.
And that is so true. Absolutely. April would like to know, why is it so important to manage by the numbers?
That's the question I knew would come from her, one of them. Well, let me ask you a question. If I live in Dallas, Texas right now, and you live in Toronto, right?
Yep.
If you were going to come to Toronto, you were going to drive down here to see me, what would you do?
Well, I would make a map and I'd make a plan and I would.
You'd get a map out, right?
Yeah.
Now you'd probably go to Google and Google it, and it'd tell you when to turn and all that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Because it'll also tell you where you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
It tells you two things. It tells you where you are and how long it's going to take to get to where you want to go, right?
Exactly.
That's what numbers do in our business. People don't understand. Without numbers, you really don't know where you are. You don't know what your problems are. You're just guessing. I wouldn't want a doctor just to guess. I'd want him to look at the stats. I want him to check my blood pressure. I'd want him to check everything. What type of blood do I have in case I need blood? Those are information that will guide you. It's a map. You know where you want to be. You know what your standards should be. Your standards, what's your standard holdup percent? It should be 50% or more. That's what I always shot for. I always wanted to shoot for 70. That was my goal, of 70% holdup. But I knew I could build a business on 50% holdup. If I can get 50% consistently, I can build a big business. I also have to know exactly what my sales percent is. My sales percent, a lot of people look at the sales percent and say they got, let's say it's 25, and they say, man, have I got a problem. I got a sales percent of only 25. When actually, that's not true. You may have two people that have a sales problem. The other people may be doing just fine. So you need to talk to people that are having bad sales percent. There's so much information in keeping numbers. And I like the CRM programs that we have today. We didn't have those back in the old days. We had to write everything down. You know, Carmen, we had to write it down. But I had numbers. Every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I had I had 16 offices here in Dallas-Fort Worth. Every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, they would come to my office and they would have to write up on the board what their numbers were. How many demos did they set? How many did they run? How many did they sell? What was the net? What was the closing percent? How many did they sell? What was the net percent? How many new people did you interview?
Wow.
And how many people did you have last week? And how many do you have this week? Those are numbers that you need. Now we got an even better system where we have all the leads in our CRM systems all combined into the computer where you can look it up. It's there for you. Every month when I was in Rainbow, I would get a printout off my computer that would tell me every office, every one of those stats. And I had 348 offices, and I'd get the stats on all those people. Have you ever wondered what to call and talk to one of your dealers about? Well, I had all kinds of information I could talk about. Hey, I want to call him and congratulate you, man. You were #1 last month at holdup. That's awesome. You had a 71% holdup, or you had a 6, whatever the #1 person was. You can take that information and use it on the other people that are not in a good way. Because every Tuesday when we come to the meeting, there would always be somebody that would have a high 60s or 70% holdup. Now, what does that do to the dealers in there that are doing a little bit less? It gives them encouragement that it can be done. And I always had those person talk. All right, what do you think makes this happen last week? What did you do? So that it's a teaching thing you can use also. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's really, really good stuff. Her second question is, what are the basics you have to know before you open an office that you have to really be good at?
Well, I think to me, #1 thing is you really truly have to understand what your opportunity is. Because if you truly understand what your opportunity is, you're going to do all the things right. You're going to try to do all the things right. If you have a purpose and you know exactly what you want to accomplish, and you have to have that purpose, you have to have that goal. But I think the second thing is of course, you got to, and I'm going to assume that you were successful safety advisors and you know how to demo and you know how to do all that. You have to master the lead program, the marketing part of the business. You have to understand that. The first person, when I moved to Dallas, Texas, it was just me. I interviewed and recruited a marketing person. That's the first, back then we called them appointment manager. That was the first person I recruited. She had to get me on 8 to 10 demos every week. That was her job. I didn't have an office. She worked out of her house. I would go out and pass cards. Actually, my first office when I moved to Dallas, Texas, was a 7-Eleven phone booth. I took the number off of that phone booth because they used to have numbers and you could call them. And I went to a printer and had him make me up cards that said, "Winner, please call." And I just go pass them out, knock on the door. Our company's giving away nice prizes. Call this number and you might be a winner. And then I'd run back to that phone booth and answer them and make appointments. So you have to understand that leads is what drives the business and people. The last 2 days we've had some good presentations about the lead program. April did a great job, and so did Brandon. So learning the lead program, I think, is unbelievable. You got to understand that. And you got to understand the numbers. You got to hopefully you already know those before you get there. And you got to know your purpose. And you got to do what I said earlier. When you first open up, you got to sell 8 personals every month. Because you think about it, 8 personals, the money you make as a dealer, as to what you pay for it, what you sell it for and what you pay for it, there's plenty of money in there to pay your overhead. Because some people don't have an office when they first start. But even if you have an office, those 8 deals should get you through what I call the struggle part. Because it is a struggle, and it is, but it's worth it. It's worth that little bit of work. It's worth that little bit of pain that you go through. And I'll use April as an example. She came from the back business like I did. But when you first start, you got to relearn things. But the important things, we didn't have to relearn. I think your work habits are important. You got to have good work habits. And most people don't. Some people don't when they start. They think they've arrived. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Absolutely awesome. They would like to know, what was the top mistake you made as a dealer or distributor?
Doing exactly the opposite of what I just said. Because I didn't do 8 personals a month. I didn't watch the numbers. I didn't watch my money. I failed.
I know that feeling.
I failed. And I had to call my father and say, "Dad, I don't have enough money to make I was single. I had a Corvette. I had a motorcycle. I had a beautiful apartment. I'd go to Vegas once every quarter. I was living the good life, selling a lot of rainbows, but I was not making any money. I was making it, but I was spending it. I think that was hard for me to learn that. But my dad taught me. When I called him, he was, I might say, upset considerably. And he said, "I'll be there in the morning." At 8 o'clock, he lived in Oklahoma City and I lived here. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, he was knocking on my door. And that was not a pleasant day for me.
No, I couldn't imagine it would be.
But I'm going to tell you what it did do. It changed my life. I didn't know it at the time. I was pissed off at the time.
Amazing.
I can't believe he's talking to me like this, First of all, he was my dad, so dads are never right until you're older. I was only like 22 then.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I made a lot of mistakes back then, but I learned how to manage my money. And that's another thing that dealers forget. And they never know. All of a sudden, they got a bank full of $50,000 and geez. And you start buying motorcycles, Corvettes, flying to Vegas, doing all these crazy, crazy things, and you spend it all.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
That day I learned how to manage I didn't learn how to manage it. I was told how to do it. I learned it over a period of time because I've seen so many people in our business sell more than I did, but end up broke and have nothing. And I hate that because our business is better than that. We need to help and teach our people how to manage their money.
Awesome. Really, really awesome. We all know that usually one of the biggest mistakes we make as a dealer, but sometimes we don't realize what's the one thing that you felt you learned that helped you to have the most success as a dealer.
It doesn't matter where you are today. What matters is where you want to go. And do the things that it takes to be successful, even in the bad times. Look to where you want to be when things are bad.
Absolutely awesome. April would like to know, when is our next goal to hit 10,000?
It's a good question. I've thought about it.
I started to think that all the other regions conglomerated to actually start this COVID-19 thing.
I think they did too. As a matter of fact, I was going to complain to Chris about that. I'm glad you agree. Maybe we can do it together.
Absolutely.
You know, I can't make that goal without the commitment from the International Lifesavers as well, because that was a goal that we wanted to accomplish. And actually, I'm looking at maybe March of next year. It depends on how long this thing goes, because we're going to have to rebuild. We're going to have to, it's like starting all over. It's like International Lifesavers is going to start May 1st, and same way with Team Eagle. Now, the difference is we got a lot of people trained, but it's still a startup. But I'm thinking maybe March. I don't know. Carmen and I will have to talk about that, because and you guys need to discuss it. I'll discuss it with my people, because I want that goal to be reached. When this first started, I went back and looked at the sign. I saw some pictures of a sign that I had made up that said 1,000 by June. So at the very beginning of this, I thought, well, maybe it'll last 2 weeks and then we'll be back, and maybe we can do it in June, you know? But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it seems to
but
be
I'm kind of looking at March or sometime before the June meeting next year.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, April also like to know, what do you think the International Lifesavers and the Eagle groups have that others don't?
I wanted to answer that leadership, but I didn't want to say that. Just kidding. But I think we have a drive of, and we're willing to listen, and we're willing to change. You know, change for just to change is not worth it. When you change, there's got to be a benefit. And I would think that that's what makes the difference, is we're willing to change things that have been the way things have been going for 50 years in GHS to a new way of thinking. I think Carmen is a leader that's willing to make changes, to make things happen. I think we see a bigger picture, and we're fresh. We're fresh.
That's exactly it.
And we have
fresh.
We are fresh, and we've been down the pike before in other businesses, and we've seen such bigness and other things that we've done that we can't imagine it can't be done here. It's like, I don't have to sell myself on this. I know it can happen. So I think that's it. We're fresh, and we're ready to run. Absolutely. Even though we're old, we're fresh, right, Carmen?
Young chickens from Chesapeake, Oklahoma.
There you go.
Within 90 days after this actually gets back up and running, we're going to have 8 organic new dealers open. Okay. Besides inventory, what are some of the mistakes that new dealers make?
Inventory. Did you say the lack of inventory?
Yeah. Besides not watching their inventory, what are some of the mistakes that new dealers make that they could, pitfalls they got to watch out for?
Well, you got to watch out for your work habits, because if you get 3 or 4 people, 4 people, 5 people, and you're going pretty good, you have a tendency to back off. That's the time right now when you open up. For the first 2 years, it's got to be all out. It's got to be all out. Do the things today that you don't want to do, that will allow you to do things that you want to do in the future. And what I see in most dealers that start out pretty good and then they falter. And it's because they've changed something. And it's usually They don't work as much. They don't have that enthusiasm that they once had. My dad, well, actually, it's my grandfather taught me. They said, son, there's going to be days when you get down in the business, whether you're a salesperson or you're a dealer or you're a regional or a divisional, whatever that position is, there's going to be times that you're going to get down. That's when you need to do a demo. Think about it. That's when you need to do a demo. That's, like I said earlier, that's what gets you excited. Our product is awesome. And when you're sitting in front of somebody, we got an awesome presentation that gets them excited about what we do, and it gets you reignited. Ride with somebody. One of the things that sometimes we, as dealers, new dealers, we put our head in the sand. We see something, but we don't do anything about it. The time to do something about it is right now. Let's say another, like the equity program. I didn't have problems with the equity program. And the reason is because nobody ever did 5 demos without selling. If they did 5 demos, somebody rode with them in management. They had to come in and work in the office and put on a demo. Then somebody rode with them. Then somebody rode with them again until we got them selling. Because I know it only takes a few sales to get my money, even if they do 20 and sell 2. I'm okay financially. The money's still there because you got to figure all the other people that are selling. Everybody looks at that one sale that you lost. It's not that one sale you got. Financially, it's not true. So that's what I think. People lose sight of what their responsibilities are, and they put their head in the sand, and they don't work.
Yep.
There's many times in the business I didn't have any money. Not many times, but there's times in the beginning I didn't. But I can always change that on a heartbeat by going out and working. Go out and sell a product. Sell 4 protections this week. What does that do to your bank account? Man, that sure does beef it up, right?
Absolutely.
And what happens when a new dealer goes out and he's selling? Other people that he's working with seeing him doing that. You know, safety advisors need to look around them and see what's going on. Safety advisors need to look and see what's going on around them. Maybe they're the ones that are negative, but look around, be informed, listen, watch, because there's people in your region that are doing a fantastic job. How could anybody say the opportunity is not there? It's there. We need to make sure we focus our meetings and so forth where we show that opportunity is true, because we get in our little offices out there and we sometimes forget what really is happening around us. Stay informed. Don't be an island. Be at all the meetings. Be at all the conference calls. Be on all the Zoom calls. All those things will make an impact on your thinking. You know, our attitude drives everything. Our attitude drives everything. And I really believe that there's only 2 kinds of attitudes you can have. You can have a stinking one or you can have a good one. There's no in between. You got to stay in one of those areas. Now, that's just me. Some people will say that's not true. But I'm either happy or I'm pissed off. I'm unhappy. And I don't want to be that way. I want to stay up.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's really awesome. This is a question from myself. Throughout my career, I've always found everybody saying that opportunity is never better. When I started in 1976, they would sit there and say, man, this is the greatest time to be in sales. It's the greatest time to be in the opportunity. And in 1980, man, the opportunity's never been better. And I found that to be true. I find that the opportunity today in OmniShield is better than it was 2 years ago when I first got involved. Do you believe with that statement? And if so, why?
I absolutely do believe in that statement. And I started really back in the 50s. So back then we just knocked doors. Okay. That's the only way we sold. We didn't have a lead program. We didn't have a marketing program. The company financed their own stuff. But as the business progressed, it got better every time. When I started as a salesman and then when I started as a dealer, it was so much better than it was back then. Awesome. It was great. We had better financing now. back in the 60s. Our financing was good in the 60s. But today, it's much better than it was in the 60s. We got better financing. We got better programs. Our marketing programs are so much better. Our recruiting programs are so much better than they ever were before. We have different finance companies. Back when I started, there was one, Beneficial. That was the only one buying anything. So now we can shop our paper around to a lot of companies. And they would take 10% of everything. Now we can get, with PCI, you can get 102%. So yes, I think things are better because we have grown. We've improved all the things that we do. We've improved our recruiting program. We've improved our training programs because now we got virtual trainer where you can go to the back office and learn how to do different parts of the presentation, or you can watch the whole presentation. There's all kinds of conference calls on the back office. It's incredible the education tools that we have that we didn't have back then. If Carmen, when you started, if you wanted to learn how to do something, somebody had to sit in the office and teach you, or you had to go watch somebody in the house. Now you can sit on your couch and watch how to put on a demo. That's pretty incredible. Who knows what it's going to be like in the future? I guarantee it'll be better.
Absolutely.
It's going to get better.
If you can go back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
I don't remember that question on there. But what would I change at myself?
What advice would you give yourself as a younger dealer?
I wish I would have been able to learn faster than I did about finances. I did all right in recruiting and hiring and training and all that, but I was horrible at my finances. It cost me a lot of heartache, a lot of personal problems in my life. So I would say that.
Okay. What are the characteristics of a great safety advisor?
Number one, they have to be sold on the product. They have to be sold on the product. And again, like I said earlier, they have to understand their responsibility to be successful. They have to master, well, maybe not master it, but have a good presentation that builds value, need, and desire for ownership. People don't buy if you haven't built the value of our product, the need of our product. And, you know, people buy what they want more than what they need sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
So they got to want what we have. And you got to learn how to build a relationship with your customer when you go in that house. I've been on presentations where people go into the house, they go set up their iPad or their flip book, and boom, they're right into the presentation before even warming up to the people. I always taught my salespeople, the first thing you want to do is try to relax those people and build a relationship with those people. If you build a relationship with those people in the beginning, they will listen to you. And until you get them to that point, they're not going to listen. Because I'd say maybe 8 out of 10 people that you're going to go show, the husband or the wife, whoever didn't book the appointment, don't want you there anyway. So you have to overcome that friction, and you got to make sure you build a good relationship with the people, have a great warm up. And that's what I like about doing the presentation with the fire blanket, and that presentation that we do is awesome. I think that really warms the people up, because first of all, you want people to listen, but there's one more step, and that is you want people to be interested in what you're doing. Because if I got your attention and you're interested, I can keep you all night if I have to. Okay?
That's awesome. What are some of the characteristics of a great sales manager?
They got to have people skills. They got to be the kind of person that has good character. They've got to have proven themselves as a salesperson. They don't have to be the number one salesperson, because I found people that were my sales managers were not always the best salespeople, but they were good teachers. They have to be good teachers. They have to know how to command the respect from the class. That the class has to feel like this guy knows what he's saying. They have to build that confidence. I think there's really three things. One, they got to have good character. Okay, good character. Character flaws cannot be ignored. They will eventually make a leader ineffective or a sales manager ineffective. For instance, little thing, meeting starts at 10 o'clock. 10:30, you show up. Not good. You got to be there. You got to be there beforehand. I taught all my sales managers to make sure everything in this room is in this room and you do not leave. Make sure that everything's in this room. Now, how do you teach that? Well, I taught it by doing it. I would go in and see everything that they had to have. I had a checklist of everything you need in that room for today's class. Because I don't want them going out. Because what happens when they go out of the room? They start talking. And usually it's not positive. So I want them to have good character. I want them to have a positive attitude about things around the office. I want them to be the cheerleaders. I want people. My goal is to make the people want to come back tomorrow. I need somebody like that. I need somebody that's has a positive attitude. It gives people the strength to do things others can't. I want them to build up those people that you're training, because they got to have excellent people skills. Because what is the real mission of a trainer? It's to be able to influence people's thinking and to be a teacher. Teach them the product. Teach them the demonstration. Teach them the referral program. Teach them the recruiting program. Teach them work habits. Give them homework, things to do. That's what I'll be looking for.
Absolutely awesome. Really, really good. I'm not even sure if you can guess who this question came from, but why are the Marines better than the Navy?
That's never been proven yet. In fact, there's a lot of conflict of whether or not we should even have the Marines, but it is a very good core of, the people that couldn't get in the Navy. They wanted to have one step below the Navy, so that's where the Marines come in, because we always have a few of them on the big ships to take care of.
Yeah, everybody needs a gopher, right?
Yep. No, in all respect to my colleague there, Mr. David, I had the opportunity to serve with the Marines, and if I was going to be in a foxhole fighting somebody, I'd like to have one of them next to me.
Yeah. Well, someone's got to hold the ammo.
Yeah.
Okay. You've worked in a few organizations at the very, very top level, and so you've promoted a lot of divisional sales directors. What do you look for in a person to become a sales director? What are you looking for in a dealer to become a sales director?
Well, I think I'd go back to what I look for in a sales manager, because really they're the same job, except on a bigger scale. Every time I would have probably, if I could go back in history and sit in a room where two people were talking about me, whether we should promote Garry or whether we shouldn't, probably the conversation would have to have gone, I don't think he's ready yet, but let's give him a shot. Sometimes people may not appear to be ready yet, and you got to give them the shot. And I'm looking for somebody that has good character. They're positive people, and they care about people. They got to be a person who really cares about people. Because when you really care, Carmen, about somebody, you're going to go the extra mile. You're going to go the extra mile and try to get the most out of that person. Most of the time when you get people, I always look at not exact what they are right now, but I look at them as though, what could he be? What do I feel is inside of him? And so a lot of people that get promoted aren't ready for the job totally. If you go by the checklist and everything, they're not perfect at everything. You don't have to be perfect at everything, but you do have to be perfect with people. I've always tried to lead with, wonder what Garry will do. I want them to know what Garry will do. You know, and that's the same kind of person I want out there. So they got to have good character, good morals. That's important because you're representing, when you get into your position, Carmen, you're representing GHS. So you got to be the right person. Your character's got to be there. We got to do the right things all the time. Are we going to make mistakes? Yes. Be man enough to admit I made a mistake. If people trust you, I think one of the things is they've got to be able to create a relationship with the people that they work with. They got to know their people. You can't lead dealers. The last position I had at Salad Master, I had 550 some dealers, almost 2,000 sales reps or more. I never did have the exact count on that. We used to have 1,500 people at our conventions, and I divided that into 7 regions in the North America, South America. I had it divided, but I picked people to put in those positions because they didn't exist when I went there. They did not exist. I wanted somebody that knew the business, but they had to be a person who really cares about the people. And they got to know how to bring the best out of a people. The best leaders in the world are the people that can bring the best out in you. Look at sporting events. Vince Lombardi to me is one of the best coaches ever. You know, I grew up in that era. And when I'd listened to him talk, I've watched some of his videos that he made way back when. And it's all about preparation. It's about playing your heart out. And that's the kind of guy I want for that position. Somebody that cares about the people. Another thing is I want them to be a listener. I want them to be able to take criticism if it's presented properly. I want them to be a team player. And I had 7 regions in North America, and I'm not proud of this, but I fired 3 of them. Now, when I fire somebody, I always feel like that, well, maybe that's my fault. I'm sure all of you've had that same feeling. But there comes a time when people have to do their job and you have to make a call. And I want the guys in the field, if I was running the people in the field, like all the regionals, I'd want them to make their own calls. I don't want to make it for them. And if I have to make them for them, well, then what do I need them for?
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
awesome. That's really, really good. What is your favorite sales or motivational book?
Well, I'll start with the first one I ever read that my grandfather gave me, and it was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That was the first book that I ever read as a salesperson. And I didn't want to read it, but my grandfather said, you are going to read this book. And he would ask me, where are you in the book? And I'd tell him, he said, you should be further than that. So he drilled that in my head big time. But that's when I started to learn, because I hated to read. I was in high school, and the last thing I wanted to do is have to read something different. But Napoleon Hill was a great motivator. And if you read that book, it's still true today what he says in it. And you got to think, this guy was, I think he was born in 1880, something like that. He died in 1970. So he was, think back then the way things were in the world, but they relate to today's world because people that are successful back then carry the same traits and characteristics of successful people today. Another one I like is how to win friends and influence others. Dale Carnegie. That's a book I picked up and read. And then I took Dale Carnegie courses in public speaking, salesmanship, which I thought was a big, big help to me in my career, is going through those courses. I lived in New Orleans at the time, and I would go every Tuesday and Thursday night to those courses. I got a lot out of it. I actually got a lot of sales out of it also because I sold a lot of people that were in the class. So I had double benefit. So that's what I like. Now today, I like to read John Maxwell. He's one of my favorites. He's a really a good guy to pick up information from. I wrote down a few of them if you want me to read them. These are the books that I have on my desk right now: Developing the Leaders Around You. And as an executive director, regional, and as a dealer should be developing leaders around them. You're going to promote out a bunch of dealers in the next year that have grown from inside organically. That's my preference of growing a business big, is you got to have a program that you build from within, who has you're going to have better success because they have the history. They know the history of the company. They know everything. They know all of our programs. They not have mastered them, but maybe they know them. And they've seen success from other people. How could you not be in your region and not think of Brent and April and the other guy and the young kids that are coming up that are doing well in your region? That's our job as dealers, is to develop leaders for the future. That's exactly what David knows my goal has been for over a year and a half, is to build some leaders within Team Eagle, which I've promoted April 1st, 3 guys, 2 different positions. But that, when that started? A year ago. It started a year ago by telling them what they needed to do in order to get the job. They also know that if they don't do the job, they won't have it next year. I expect this out of them. And one is cooperation, teamwork, and the same spirit as Team Eagle. I don't want them one of the things I hate most about when somebody gets promoted, they think they know everything. And a lot of people that don't get promoted think they know everything and think they should be one. So those are the things I look for. Another one is, this is really a good book that I had my son read, and it's called Talent is Never Enough. These are all by John Maxwell. Talent is never enough. A good example of that is football. There's so many great players out there that never make it to the Pro Bowl because they are not disciplined. They may be great, absolutely tremendous, but they never make it to the Pro Bowl. Why? Because they're lazy. They think their talent will carry them. Talent will not carry you. You've got to plan. You've got to practice. You've got to work at being good in this business. And if God gave you some talent, then utilize that talent and build on it, and you become a superstar. Some of the superstars in football aren't as talented as others, but they just have something burning inside of them. Like the 49ers this year. They really thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. But guess what? Didn't happen.
Well, they almost got Tom Brady. Then they would have had a chance.
Yeah, that's possible.
I love it. Great stuff. What is your favorite motivational movie?
I don't know if I have one. I like Rudy. I watch Rudy a lot. I love that show. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's where the football players, the guy gets in a wreck. I can't think of the name of it. That's a good book about teamwork. A good movie. Does anybody know the name of that? I can't think of it. It's Denzel Washington played in it. David, you should know what it is. You watch TV all the time. Go to the movie every day.
We Are the Titans.
We Are the Titans. That's it. That's a great motivational book. See, I told you he'd know the name of it.
Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans. You're wrong, David. Remember the Titans.
That was me.
That is really a good movie, because that really talks about teamwork. And it kind of has about superstars. Well, you don't make his team. You got to be a team player. So those are two really good. Pardon me?
Well, sorry, I got finished. I thought you had finished there for a second.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Those are two good movies.
Sweet. Yeah, that's a great movie. And Rudy, if you haven't seen Rudy, there's probably not a better movie on how a leader can make a difference. What are some of your hobbies?
I like to play golf, but I haven't played much lately because I hurt my shoulder. I don't know if you call reading a hobby, but I like to read, and I like to go to movies. And the reason I like to go to movies because it gets me away from everything. I get involved. I get into something else besides what I do for a living, and that's the same way with golf. It takes me away from the pressures, you might say, or the obligations that you have. So, and probably the biggest thing I love is being with my grandkids, going on vacation with my grandkids and my kids, and being around family. To me, that's my biggest joy. My grandson's amazing. I've got grandsons that are a lieutenant in the Army, and I've got grandsons that are granddaughter who's 3 years old. And my daughter, Chrissy, has my grandson, Aiden, and she's pregnant and is going to be delivering her baby. Due date is September the 10th. And it's going to be another boy. We were all hoping for a girl, but it's going to be another boy. And I'm disappointed because I wanted her to have to go through teenage years with her daughter like I went through with her.
I can relate. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, and here's our final question for today. What are some of your goals now?
Okay. We all have, I hope everybody has goals and what they want to accomplish. And my goal, I might say I'm further down the road than most of you, and as far as age, and my goals have changed throughout my career. And my goal right now is I talk to my brother at least twice a week, and he just bought himself a condo on a lake. He bought himself a trailer that he pulls behind his truck, and we are planning a big. When I pull the plug, I'm going to do the same thing, and we're going to travel the USA and see the world. That's one of my big goals. And another goal is to, when I do pull the plug, then I'm going to get involved and do something with kids. I don't know what that is exactly, but I know that that's a calling I have, is to work with underprivileged kids and try to help them in their life.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Garry, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out today and speaking to the International Lifesavers. A pleasure as always. And you have so much wisdom and so much experience. And some of the things you taught today, I'm sure a lot of people wrote down a lot of things and might have writer's cramp right now. As one final thing, if there's one message, what message would you like to say to the Lifesavers listening today?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you. You guys came on so hard and strong last year. I mean, 2 years from zero to where you are today is a fantastic accomplishment of what you guys accomplished. Carmen, you've done a great job, and you've got some great people that are helping you build one of the biggest regions there is. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get to play the last month, because I know your goal was to be the number 1 region. My goal was to be the number 1 region for the year. It's kind of like a movie I was watching the other day about 2 gunfighters. One of them was crippled, got his hand. He was really good at it, but he got his hand hurt and he couldn't draw anymore. To make it long story short, he killed the other guy, though. He outdrew him anyway. So we got crippled. We'll never know how it really would end. But I want to congratulate the International Lifesavers. You guys actually made us better. The International Lifesavers made us better. So I appreciate that. And I guess we'll go at it again. But you'll always be a part of us, I think. I hope that it's kind of like watching one of your kids go out and become very successful. That's what you've done. You've become very successful. You and Brenda have done an outstanding job. And I know that the people at GHS, David and myself and everybody else, appreciate what you do in your leadership. And I appreciate you friendship.
Well, thank you, Gary. Thank you for an absolutely awesome day. Been a great interview. I'm sure everybody's going to get excited about getting a copy of the recording. Today's contest is going to be the winner is going to get dinner with Brenda and myself at the convention on Thursday night, and we're going to have some special guests there also. And so that's where everybody's fighting for today. There's 4 questions that need to be asked. 4 questions. The first question is, who said it's very important not to find a perfect recruit? They aren't out there. Who said it's very important not to find a perfect recruit? They aren't out there. Number 2, which video explains why David Carter loves this business and why? Which video explains why David Carter loves this business and why? Number 3, what does Brandon Van C think is her edge over other safety advisors? What does Brandon Van C think is her edge over other safety advisors? And number 4, whose motto is, I can, I will, watch me? Whose motto is, I can, I will, watch me? Everybody have a fantastic day. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gary. Absolutely awesome. Really appreciate your friendship and your leadership. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you all.